What's up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you. I'm going to do something that I actually have never done on this channel before, but I've done on my show, the podcast, many times, and that is a review of television. So this is what I'm going to call my binge review, where I binge a season of a TV show because that's how I watch TV nowadays. And then I kind of tell you guys what I think about it. I will also give you a grade out of 100, ranking the season overall. I just watched The Last of Us, the HBO original series starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Now, everyone out there in geek culture might know that this movie is based on a 2013 video game of the same name, a very popular role-playing game that I had never even heard of. Now, I was a video game geek back in my day, but that was more in the 1990s into the early 2000s. Well before games as complex as The Last of Us showed up. So I tell you that just to let you know that this is coming from a viewer that had no knowledge of the video game at all whatsoever. I knew there was a connection, but I didn't know anything about the story, and I had never really even seen the gameplay, aside from a few stills here and there when I was watching different promotional stuff about the show. Now, I'll just save you the suspense up front. I loved this show from beginning to end. I binged it in a total of about 3 days. I will stick with this show now, knowing that they're going to be doing a season 2 at least. And when that happens, I will wait until they've all aired, because I'm a weirdo, and then I will binge them, all 9 or 10 episodes, and I'll come back and do another review. I'm going to keep it as spoiler-free as humanly possible, by the way, on these reviews. Different plot points and stuff I might mention, but it'll be things that you know from the plot in the trailers and in the promotional materials. So the main thing that I loved about this show was that there was the aura of the horror, kind of like zombie tropes, persistent throughout the entire program. And it really thrust us into that world in the first episode and kind of introduced us to the overall danger on the show, which of course are what are referred to as the infected, or clickers in some cases, which are like a heightened version of the infected. In reading a brief synopsis from Wikipedia, the series is set in 2023, 20 years into a pandemic caused by a mass fungal infection, which causes its host to transform into zombie-like creatures, and it eventually collapses society. So we've heard this zombie story told before, right? And I'm using zombie in air quotes. Or this infected story before, 28 days later, and about 1 million zombie movies and television shows, even as recently as The Walking Dead. So what's different about The Last of Us? And I do think it's different, and that's the heart in the show and the emotion. The depth of the two main characters in this show are so well written and so well acted by Pascal and Ramsey. Our two leads, by the way, are Joel and Ellie. And they're also the leads that mirror from the video game as well, is my understanding. We get to be a fly on the wall and witness their kind of relationship blossoming throughout the show. It's a very father-daughter type relationship, and he becomes more and more protective of her as the series goes on, and she becomes more and more attached to him, kind of shredding away her standoffishness from the beginning. She's a smart-mouthed, kind of angsty teenager who thinks she doesn't really need any help and can get through the world. And he is a very stubborn, old mind kind of guy. And the two of them are like polar opposites. But over the course of these 9 episodes, we really get to see their relationship blossom and their friendship. He's kind of her adoptive father, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And the emotion I was not expecting. You know, I binged this series. So as we get to like episode 8 and definitely into episode 9, which was the finale of the season, I literally had tears in my eyes. I was crying during episode 9 as some things that unfold, and we kind of get to the climax of the season, what we knew the ultimate end goal was. And so when we kind of get there, it kind of hit me, even though I knew it was probably coming. It was a bit of a shock. And you kind of are taken aback just a smidge when you get connected to these characters the way that I did. The performances, I can't say enough. Pedro Pascal is on a tear right now. Of course, The Mandalorian. Last year, he was in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nick Cage. I love this guy. This might be his best work as of late as an actor. Just turning in such a layered, gritty performance. He's got to do a lot of fight choreography. He's got to do a lot of heartfelt, dramatic scenes towards the end of the season. We kind of see him kind of battling with his own burdens and his own past, the ghosts in his past. And he handles all that with such vigor, such eloquence. And we are kind of scared of him, but we also look to him as a father figure, much like Ellie does on the show. And speaking of Ellie, portrayed by Bella Ramsey here, stepping into this role of this kind of punk kid, 14-year-old girl who's independent, wanting to do her own thing. She's foul-mouthed. Just absolutely a pure delight in this show. In fact, her arc as Ellie is the most interesting one to me. She's basically been alone her entire life since birth. She's never really had anyone to count on, and she's been living in this infected America as she was born after the outbreak. So come along this kind of vagabond character in Joel, and she finally, for the first time in her life, sees someone who really cares about her and who will really fight for her. And it's beautiful to see her kind of standoffish naivety kind of graduate to this like pure of heart connection with someone. It's really a beautiful thing to watch. And don't forget, all of this is set in an apocalyptic setting, zombie-like creatures lurking around every shadow. There's other threats in the show as well, portrayed by actual humans that bring different elements to different episodes. Speaking of which, I'm going to segue to what my favorite episodes of season 1 were. So my favorite episodes of season 1 were, there's pretty much no contest. I know a lot of people have mentioned episode 3, which is titled A Long, Long Time. That's the episode that stars Nick Offerman in a guest starring role. Possible Emmy nomination coming for him for this role in a guest spot. An absolutely tragic, torturous, romantic, one-off episode that would have been a great movie on its own. And really it is. It's about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And it is such a poignant, beautiful portrayal of growing old together. It's almost like a live action version of Up from Pixar. It's really a one-off and it's a beautiful episode. That's my second favorite, however. My favorite episode of the season was episode 8. It's right before the finale and it's called When We Are in Need. This is a bit of a one-off, but it's a culmination of what we've been watching up to that point. And it's really when Ellie kind of comes into her own and realizes her place in the world. And when I say she is badass in this episode, that is an understatement. Bella Ramsey and Ellie just absolutely take care of business in that episode. Anyone that's seen it knows what I mean. But she carries it flawlessly, meeting this other group of humans who have set up compound, and there's kind of a back and forth there. Again, no spoilers, but there's a bit of confrontation with that group and with her and Joel, and we find out the tie-in to the rest of the season, which I thought was written beautifully because I did not see that coming, and it just turns into this moment for Ellie at the end of the episode, a moment that you are extremely sorry for her, that her young girl character had to experience such things in life, but you also are kind of triumphant with her at her winning and taking over the situation and keeping, frankly, the world going, because she's so important to the plot of the show. I also loved episode 9. I love the way they ended it. I'm not going to give anything away, but Joel kind of goes off the rails a little bit. It kind of creates a bit of a turmoil within us as the viewer because we're so attached to these two. I mean, it's really these two characters. I think they nailed it. I freaking love this show, guys. I can't wait for season 2. I think the next TV show that I'm going to do this binge review for is the Netflix series called Beef. So if you're into that, if you like these reviews for television, of course, I do a ton of movie ones as well. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Real quick, let me throw up my score out of a 100 on season 1 of The Last of Us. And it's going to be a high score, guys. A 95. If you knew the video game, you've probably already seen the show. If not, please watch it. If you didn't know the video game, you're in the exact same boat that I'm in, and I just gave it a 95. It is a top tier recommend for me. Did you see The Last of Us? What did you think of it? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time in the garage.